I bet I know at least two things about you. You like cute tiny things, and you either own or wish you owned a cutting machine like a Cricut or a Silhouette Cameo. Did I guess? Let me know in the comments. And yes, today I'm gonna show you how to make a miniature Cricut cutting machine for Barbie dolls and doll houses. Like most of my projects, this miniature Cricut is made completely out of paper, and there are templates to help you make your own version. A free printable one linked at the end of this video, and in my shop, a digital version for cutting with, well, a Cricut or a Silhouette cutting machine. But let's get started, shall we? To build the structure of this miniature Cricut, I used cardstock from old packagings. This is a great way to reuse the piles of old packagings we all have at home. Plus, this kind of cardstock is typically a bit sturdier than regular craft cardstock. Cut these next 6 parts and glue them together. As you can see, each layer is slightly smaller than the previous one to create a beveled edge. The final piece should be approximately 4 mm thick. Use a nail file or a piece of sandpaper to smooth out the edge. Now cut these 3 parts and glue them over the base we just made. Once again, the layers have decreasing sizes to create a slanted shape. Repeat this step for all the corners of the base. Finish it off by sanding the edges with a nail file. Next, cut this part into cardstock several times. Stack these layers together until you reach a thickness of approximately 3 mm. Glue this piece over the right side of the base. Then repeat the same process for the left side. And this is what the base of our miniature Cricut should look like at this point. It's time to build an inner structure for the sides of the Cricut. Cut these 2 pieces and glue them to the base of your miniature Cricut, 1 per side. Then cut these 6 parts and layer them together. Once again, the layers are different sizes to create a beveled edge. Make sure to line up all the layers on the straight side, then glue the final piece to the top right side of the machine. Repeat the same process for the left side. Cut these 6 parts, glue them together and attach them to the machine's base. Cut this part several times and glue the layers together in groups of 3 or 4. You'll have to make 3 identical pieces. Glue 2 of them to the right side of your miniature Cricut, 1 right under the top piece, and the other above the hole in the side wall. Glue the 3rd element to the left side of the machine, just above the hole in the side wall. Then cut this part a few times. Glue the layers together until the piece is thick enough to fit snugly into the machine's left side, and glue it in place. Now cut this part into copy paper. Roll it against a pen or a round stick to give it a curved shape. Then roll it into a ring and slightly flatten it between your fingers. Glue it into the hole on the machine's left side. Finally, cut this part twice. Glue the 2 sides together and place the final piece at the center of the little storage cup. Now this is optional, but if you want, you can cut a couple of little rectangles into cardstock and glue them in between the layers on the machine's sides. This will strengthen the structure. Now let's make the top part of the machine. Cut this part twice and glue the 2 layers together. Then cut this part 4 times and glue the layers on top of the piece we just made. Glue the final piece to the machine, aligned with the back. Next, cut this part into copy paper and fold it in half. Glue 1/2 to the top of the machine. Cut this part into regular cardstock and glue it over the machine's top. If you're cutting by hand, you may want to skip cutting this part. Now cut this part. Glue the oval frame over the storage cup. Then glue each little key on the right side of the machine. To add a little more 3-dimensionality, cut and glue 2 layers of keys. This is what our miniature Cricut should look like at this point. Cut this part into cardstock 3 times. Attach 1 layer to the paper tab on the machine's base. making sure that it's centered and that it can easily fold over the base of the machine. At this point, we can glue the remaining layers on top of the previous one. And just a reminder, you'll find the download link to the free printable template at the end of this video, and the digital version for cutting with a Cricut or a Silhouette cutting machine is in my shop, linked in the description box. Now is the right time to complete the exterior part of our machine. Cut this piece into copy paper and glue it to the back of your miniature Cricut, leaving a small aperture at the base. Then cut this part and glue it over one side of the machine, a small portion at a time to avoid the formation of creases. Repeat this step for the opposite side. Cut this piece into cardstock and glue it to the machine's back, toward the inside. We can now begin working on the machine's front tray. Cut this part into copy paper and glue it to the lower end of the machine's front side. Then cut this part 3 times. Glue together 2 of the layers, then attach them to the paper tab, making sure to align them with the opening on the machine's front. At this point, you can glue the remaining layer. It's time to start coloring our miniature Cricut. For starters, apply a few coats of acrylic gesso to even out the surface. Then add some colored accents using acrylic paint. And finally, seal everything with a coat of clear glossy varnish or clear nail polish. Paint some tiny dots on the machine's keys using a dotting tool and black paint. If you want, you can cut a thin strip of kitchen foil and glue it around the base of your miniature Cricut to add another cute detail. At this point, we can begin to build the rollers and the tool holder. Take 2 toothpicks and cut them to a length of 6.7 centimeters. I know it sounds super weird, but trust me, it's the perfect length for this part, and you'll see why later. Color the toothpicks first with black acrylic paint and then with silver metallic paint. If you don't have metallic paint, you can just leave them black or use metallic nail polish. Now cut these strips into copy paper and color them with a black marker. Then take one of the toothpicks and measure 1 centimeter from each end. Glue the 2 little paper strips around the toothpick. We can now start assembling the tool holder. Cut this part into cardstock and fold it along the dashed or scored lines. Sandwich the cardstock between 2 rulers to fold it more precisely. Then glue all the tiny tabs to create a little box. Color it with silver or gray paint. Next, cut this part, fold along the scored lines and glue it on top of the silver box. Now cut this part, fold it, and glue the 2 resulting boxes to the front of the other one. And yes, I realize they're really small. Color the right side of these boxes with silver or gray paint. Then cut this part, fold it, and glue it on top of all the previous ones. You should end up with this. To make tiny tools for our little Cricut machine, take a toothpick and cut it into a few pieces, each approximately 1 centimeter long. Color them in various colors to create a bunch of different tools. I also made some bigger tools in the same way. Now we can slide the tool holder over one of the rollers. It's time to insert the rollers into the machine. Slide this roller into this hole, push it all the way in, and then slide the opposite end into the hole on the right side of the machine. Repeat this process for the front roller. And our miniature dollhouse Cricut machine is ready. I have included 4 printable mats so that your doll can start using their new toy right away. As promised, here's a link to the free printable template, and if you're interested in the SVG and Silhouette Studio files, there's a link to my shop in the description box. If you're feeling crafty, I suggest you watch this video next to learn how to make a miniature printer for your dollhouse using just paper. And this is all for today's video. Until next time, bye!